I think we're good. 7 o'clock. Is that what I said? We go?
Good evening and welcome to Trojan Talk. My name is Troy Roth.
And I'm Krista Miller.
We are coming to you live tonight for the first time. Last week we were recorded. Tonight we are live, properly social distance with our plexiglass barrier. So we're happy to be with you tonight. And we're going to get started here shortly with Trojan Talk. But before we begin, very sadly, I'd like to take a moment of silence. This past week, 5th grade student Austin West of Wilson Vance passed away while at home. Our thoughts and prayers are with Austin and his family, as well as the staff at Northview where Austin attended. And most recently, Austin, like I said, was a 5th grade student at Wilson Vance. So at this time, we're going to recognize Austin and his family, keep them in our thoughts and prayers, and we will take a moment of silence. Thank you, and rest in peace, Austin. Like I mentioned, my name is Troy Roth. I'm currently the Assistant Superintendent with Findlay City Schools. Effective August 1st, I will become the Superintendent, as well as effective August 1st, Mrs. Miller will become the Assistant Superintendent. Trojan Talks was something Krista and I, Mrs. Miller and I discussed. We wanted a way to communicate with the community with this current time we're living in, the constant changes, the pandemic, levy issues. There are so many things changing in Findlay City Schools on a daily basis. We wanted to be able to communicate with you, give you a way to communicate with us, have some open dialogue, just so we can answer your questions, so you can put a face to the name. Just so we can get to know us, what our philosophies are, what we plan on doing here at Findlay City Schools, and so you're comfortable having a conversation with us. So tonight, like I said, we will start our first live version of Trojan Talk. Hopefully you had a chance to watch last week's version of Trojan Talk. It was taped and available on our website. We do know we had a number of viewers, so we're happy with that. So, our goal is to have an open line of communication. We will be discussing a variety of topics, and we value your feedback. So, take advantage of the opportunity to submit questions to us. You can submit questions during the week to a website, to the email address, which is PR at P as in Paul, R@FCS.org. If you have a question during the week, you can submit those. We will do our best. We have several questions submitted through the PR@FCS email address that we'll answer this evening. And you can also submit questions to us tonight on the link. I believe it's labeled questions.
Should be right just in the description there.
Should be right in the description of tonight's talk. If you click on questions, you can submit questions, and we have several already submitted, and we'll do our best tonight to answer those as well. So tonight's objective, we are going to start talking about the restart of the 2021 school year. What will that look like? What decisions are being made? What plans are being made? Where are we getting our recommendations, and who are we hearing from? So right now, the start date is August 25th is our start date. And it is our intention and our hope and desire that we are back to school August 25th with students and staff in session. With that being said, we are starting to make plans for starting school the traditional way on August 25th. We are making plans to have an online option and also to have what we're referring to as a hybrid option of online and face-to-face. We expect that planning to take place all summer. We will use this venue to communicate changes with you. We'll use our email system, our websites, all those ways to communicate with you as we progress through the summer. Like I said, this is a fluid situation. What we decide tomorrow may not look the same the next day. The plan we put in place in 2 weeks may change, sooner than later. So we will do our best to communicate with you, but our goal is to be in school on August 25th. So with that being said, I will turn things over to Krista.
Yep.
And I believe Mrs. Miller is going to talk to you about survey and our restart plans for 2021.
I sure am. Good evening. Welcome again to Trojan Talks. We were just chatting before we started that we now have an updated logo with a little speech bubble for the A for Talk. So Lauren Julian, our webmaster, created that for us. That's very cool. So thank you. We're continuing to amp things up and refine our process here. So thanks for growing and learning with us as we do this. Yes, Troy mentioned that we did send out a survey, and with that survey was this document that had an outline of the 3 plans. We based those 3 plans on the governor saying, look, have options for families so that they feel safe sending their students back to school. And if they don't feel safe, what are you going to do for those students? So based that with those 3 suggestions from the governor was the foundation of the 3 plans. So we put this out to parents. We've had about 20% of our population return the survey, a little more. So thank you for that. It's not too late. We will push that out again tomorrow following Trojan Talk so that if you have not had voice, you can still have voice. We want to hear from you. This is, we work for you. So we want to make certain that we're reflecting what you want us to offer. So being that there are a lot of unknowns still, and that's what we have to make certain that we're communicating is we are operating right now with what we know. And what we know is very little, and we're limited in our knowledge. And like Troy mentioned, it's very fluid. What today looks like with the COVID and with the pandemic might not be what tomorrow looks like. But we don't want that unknown to slow down being proactive with some plans to at least have a foundation of what the fall might look like. So first and foremost, we want your students in our buildings. Our halls are empty, our hearts are empty, and we want them back. So our first and foremost option is to make certain that our doors, our classways, our hallways are open. That right now, pending no change and no setback, is the plan, that we will be offering your students to come to us. In a minute, Troy's going to talk about some of the ways that we have to navigate this process because it's more difficult than simply opening our doors. As much as we would love to go back to that old normal, and I know eventually we will, probably it's not going to look the same way that we wish it to look at the beginning of the year than hopefully what we are at the end of the year. So we'll discuss some of those challenges and barriers here in a moment. But when you read this, the traditional option is simply that you get to come to school and be brick and mortar in our building. Online option, that's going to be that you are an online student of Findlay City Schools. You are still a Findlay Trojan, you are still Trojan True, but you are taking advantage of the online option. We know that we can't compliment our teachers enough for what they did. As we've said many times, we brought our staffs together on a Thursday after school and said, gosh, this could happen. We can't imagine we'll really be closing our doors and being all online, but just get it in your head that it could. And we launched our program by the following Wednesday. So we truly cannot commend our teachers enough for what they did. But we were also in an infant stage of learning what online learning truly looked like. So we are spending the summer in professional development. We have teachers working hard, our curriculum directors are working hard, and principals to develop an even improved system and platform of online learning. So know that that will be an option. It won't look the same. We're going to even better what we did in the spring to offer. And then we have a hybrid option. And we can't tell you a lot of what that looks like because we're beginning to develop these plans actually on Thursday with a group of teachers and administrators. But that's going to be that though you might not be comfortable sending your student entirely to school on a traditional schedule or in a traditional manner, you still want to have a relationship. You still want some face-to-face, some one-on-one, some small group with a teacher. Or it could be at the high school that there's some options that you really have to be in the facilities to truly gain the experience you need to gain from a particular class. So those are the options that we're looking at, we're developing, working with other school districts to see what they look like. I will tell you, every time we go down one path, some of these regulations that Troy's going to share with you backs us up a little bit. So we're trying as hard as we can to look at what our limitations are that's beyond our circle of control and what can we do within those limitations that's within our circle of control. And I think it's really exciting, and we just printed some things out that we have. When I printed this earlier today, and I know there's more, there's over 1,000 responses, which represents a little over 20% of us, and we can look exactly what schools are responding and what you want. And even better than just the data, we have over 800 responses of your thoughts and your concerns and your ideas. And I can tell you, we've been so proud of our Findlay City Schools Trojan country out there, because a lot of our concerns were your concerns also. It's been positive and it's been productive, and we value your voice. So this gives us a lot of material as we work as a school district to listen to you, for you to have voice and to respond in a manner that hopefully we can find a way to navigate these very uncharted waters. So anything else, Mr. Roth, in that? I think I mentioned we are working on Thursday as a school team. We have a core team following all of the protocol that we need to with COVID. So a small number that we can socially distance. We will be taking temperatures as they come in and wearing face masks. And then we have then they're going to disseminate into some subgroups where then there's smaller groups or working virtual, so that we're honoring the protocol while still being productive.
Absolutely. I'd like to recognize Mrs. Miller, Stephanie Roth, and Rich Steiner, our curriculum directors, who have really been working hard on making our planning for next year become a reality. And also, we have a number of teachers and administrators who are volunteering their time to come in on Thursdays. Like Krista mentioned, we wanted this group to be a little larger, but due to some restrictions and some recommendations from Hancock Public Health, they asked us to make that a smaller group. So like Krista mentioned, we'll make sure we're social distance, face masks are being worn, and that we're coming up with the best plan to give your students the best possible academic experience he can have for the 2021 school year. So we're really looking forward to getting started, and we're taking recommendations from a lot of different groups. We're getting recommendations from the Ohio Department of Education. This thick packet here is a reset and restart planning guide from the Ohio Department of Education. We're getting recommendations from the Ohio Department of Health, from the governor's office, and also, like I mentioned, we've had a good working relationship with Hancock Public Health, and I appreciate them working with us and keeping us up to date. But this is just not an easy snap your fingers and let's go back to school. When we come back, we want to make sure it's safe, not only for our students, but also for our staff. We're also receiving guidelines from the CDC, the Centers for Disease Control. So we have guidelines there. So we have a lot of material to keep us up, to review, and to make sure we're up to date. So we will review all that information, and we will continue to report back to you, what we're planning and what that looks like. And as things change, we will continue to communicate that with you. So thank you, Krista, for all your hard work. Some of the challenges that we're facing, the biggest challenge, and as we speak to superintendents throughout the state, one of our biggest challenges in many other districts is transportation. We transport right around 1,600 students. And right now, the current guidelines are calling for 1 student per seat, face masks being worn, temperature checks being taken daily. That is a concern for us. Generally, we route 60 to 65 elementary kids per bus. If you manage that and cut that down to 1 per seat, we're talking less than half that. And at the high school and middle school level, we put 48 kids on a bus. So you're talking transporting 15 to 20 kids. That is a problem. We have not come up with a solution yet as of now with the current guidelines. Now, as you know, some of the guidelines have loosened up in the state. Ohio is reopening. Some of you are probably aware that last Monday was the first time we were allowed to bring our student athletes back to the facilities with some guidelines. So starting last Monday, our coaches were able to bring in 9 athletes at a time to work with in the gym, on the track, in the weight room, properly social distance, temperature checks being taken of student athletes, and with our coaches wearing face masks. So, it was great to see last week. Our coaches and staff were excited just to see kids. Our kids were excited to be at our facilities working out and getting prepared for their upcoming seasons. So hopefully we'll see those restrictions loosen as we go here throughout the summer, and we can bring in some of our other organizations and our clubs and activities, so all our kids can start working with their coaches, their advisors, their directors, and we can start the process of starting school in August. Also some issues we're facing, the face mask, wearing a mask. Our numbers are showing that is an issue for a lot of people are concerned that their child would have to wear a mask. That's an issue for us as well. We think it's going to be very difficult for our younger children for our special needs children to wear a mask throughout the day. And it may be very difficult for some staff who may have some health issues to wear a mask throughout the day. So that is another issue we will have to be working through. Social distancing. Our classrooms, sometimes at the high school, middle school level, we have 25 to 30 kids a class. To social distance 6 feet apart, you're cutting those classes in half. We obviously do not have the staff or the space to meet those requirements or those recommendations. So those are some issues we're working with, trying to work through, come up with solutions, and that's why we're meeting on Thursday to talk through these issues, because Mrs. Miller and I can talk through these issues, and we go home and we come back the next day with 5 things we didn't think of. So we're going to pull in some staff, some administrators, some teachers, and start working through a lot of these issues. We do have some questions that were submitted during the week to the pr@fcs.org. So, one of those questions submitted asked about spring break next year. If school looks like it does right now, we do have a 2021 calendar in place. It is available on the website. Our first day back will be August 25th. Spring break, we do have spring break Thursday through Monday. April 1st is Thursday, and students will be off Thursday, April 1st through Monday, April 5th. So not a traditional full week spring break, but 3 days worth of spring break and over the weekend. So also, we have not put together a 21-22 calendar. So we do have a committee that looks at the calendar. We'll start that this fall sometime to come out with a 21-22 calendar, and spring break will be an option we discuss if we want to go back to a full week. That committee is made up of some parents, administrators, and teachers, and is led by the new assistant superintendent, Mrs. Miller. So that is something she will be handling here in the fall. And then one other question we had submitted through the PR email is somebody wants to know why we can't start school on time, or normal traditional school, and I think we addressed that. It is our sincere hope that we are back in school. We know kids need to be in school. Our teachers want to be back. That relationship that kids have with teachers, seeing them daily, knowing that they're going to go to school and they're going to be fed, and there's going to be someone that cares about them and has their best interest at heart. We want to be back in school, and we will do everything in our power to get our students and staff back on August 25th in full session.
That is absolutely the desire. We had a lot of heartbroken teachers at the end of the school year, and I know when we were working in, and I was still at Glenwood and walking through the halls, it was definitely not a feeling that we enjoyed or we want to continue. So that is the goal, is to get students back in our buildings.
And I mentioned earlier, seeing our athletes back on campus working with our coaches. I don't know who was more excited, if it was the student athletes to be out of the house working or our coaches who, they hadn't taught online teaching, but they haven't had any interaction with kids. So they were very excited, and from all indications, that's going well. And we've had a lot of questions on athletics, and we know, I believe, next week, we're hoping to have Athletic Director Nate Wyrau here to answer questions pertaining to athletics. So we know it's an important part of school for a lot of our students, and extracurricular activities. So we'll have Mr. Wyrau here next week to start answering any questions on athletics.
And also next week, we will have Stephanie Roth, who is our elementary director of instruction, along with either a kindergarten teacher or a primary principal, to discuss what kindergarten is going to look like. Again, we will share what we know, which we all, we've established, and we'll continue to say that we don't have all the answers because we are facing a lot of unknowns. But we do know that kindergarten will start. We do know that we have some information on kindergarten screening. We still need you to register your kindergartners. They're coming in, and that's awesome, but we still need you to come in and register regardless of what the beginning of the year could look like. We will be serving our kindergartners and bringing them a fantastic kickoff to their life as a Findlay Trojan. So please make certain that you're continuing to register your kinders. And next week, in addition to discussing athletics, we will be discussing what kindergarten will look like, and certainly what screening will look like, and encourage you to continue to register. So we'll make certain that we post those topics as a reminder that you can submit your questions or watch live again next week, and we will address them as you submit them to us. So.
And it's probably a good time to mention that kindergarten registration is done here at the Welcome Center, and our Welcome Center hours are 10 to 2 p.m. Monday through Friday. Mrs. Waldman in our Welcome Center will be happy to help you out. She's currently taking appointments. You can contact her via email at rwaldman@fcs.org, or you can contact our office and schedule an appointment. But we are continuing to register kindergarten students, so feel free to make an appointment here at the Welcome Center.
Yep, and we're following the protocol. There's a safety shield, hand sanitizer, and folks out here are wearing a mask as people come in to register. So we are doing all we can to keep you safe in that regard.
And just a reminder, you can submit questions here live, and we will try to get to all those questions tonight. Some questions that we have received are on future topics, so we may address those quickly, but save a longer explanation and a longer answer for future topics that we will be addressing in a later date. So one of the questions we did have asked about when will school start this year. So this is the restart, and I mentioned earlier our plan is to start August 25th, and if that should change, we will communicate that with you. Another question asked why traditional school is not an option, and I think Mrs. Miller made it very clear that traditional school is an option. To us, it is our number one option.
Absolutely.
As long as we can make that safe for all our students and staff, that is the option we want to pursue as a traditional start.
Well, and as a part of the question, it says sort of an old normal. I don't know that a true normal is going to happen anytime soon with the guidelines and with what we're facing, but certainly as close as we can get to that old normal, that your question hits our intention dead on. We wanted that old normal back as much as we possibly can as well. So as close that we can get to that old normal while still following the guidelines that are placed before us, that is absolutely our objective.
All right, like I said, you can click on the link to submit questions this evening. One other question we have, which is really a future topic that we plan on having, I don't recall the exact date, but towards the end of this month, we will be discussing levy issues, our operational levy in August, on August 4th. We'll be discussing that along with finances. But the question we got tonight, which we'll do a better job of answering on our levy nights in the future, but ask about administrative cuts and decreased enrollment. We have made some administrative cuts over the last 5 years. We have cut certified, classified staff. We made some additional cuts this year going into next school year. We will be down one assistant principal at the high school. With Meg Simon was an assistant principal at the high school, who has been promoted to replace Krista as the principal at Glenwood Middle School. So we're excited for Meg and looking forward to what she does and what she brings to the table, as we are excited with Krista coming over to central office. But so we have made some cuts. We will continue to look at cuts, downsizing based on enrollment, right sizing our staff. That includes certified staff, classified staff, but we will continue to look at that and do a better job of explaining what some of those cuts may be if we don't pass a levy when we get to our levy night, which I believe is the end of this month.
Yep, towards the end of the month.
Okay.
We did have another question come in about marching band, that if a student is interested in marching band, will there be a marching band? And our answer now is that is absolutely the direction we want to go. We want every student to have every option. So if you want to contact Mr. Emke at the high school and find out how, the way by which you would sign up for marching band, we encourage everybody to sign up as if all systems are go. If something needs to be adjusted, that's one reason we're doing this, is so we can get right to you and explain what the changes are, and not only what the changes are, but why we're making them. I think that through all of this, when people understand the why behind the decision making, it makes the decision making clearer and more understandable why we're making the decisions we're making, because they're very difficult decisions. So we are certainly hoping that we can offer the extracurricular activities in conjunction with the academics. We just don't know exactly what that future holds.
And like I mentioned, with athletics opening up last week, I personally think it's just a matter of time before they open up to all our extracurricular activities. I'm sure there's going to be some safeguards in place, temperatures being taken, potentially masks being worn when feasible. But I truly do see, some of our summer activities, such as, band camp and marching band. I do believe
smaller groups. There's
I do
ways to
believe
make
there
it
will be
happen.
some requirements and suggestions to make that happen. But personally, I see that coming hopefully in the near future, where we can not just get our athletes back, but we can get all our students who are involved in whatever activity it may be. Because technically our buildings are still closed till the end of June, except for these individual workouts that were allowed for athletic training. So hopefully here in the near future, we'll get another announcement that we're going to open up the buildings to all students to start in their extracurricular activities.
Yeah, we had to start somewhere, and those were the first guidelines that came out, so that's where we started. But we love the arts, and we value every program. The athletics was our starting point, but we want our kids back and active, and it was just good to see some normalcy with the kids out at that high school. So we want to encourage that as much as we can.
And that, I think we should be clear, that wasn't a decision we made.
Right.
That was came down from the governor's office that we could start individual athletic workouts. So as soon as we can get every other student in to start their activities,
singing and dancing as soon as we can.
We will be all for it. We had another question. If a student wants to wear a mask to school to be safe, are they allowed? Absolutely. Like we said, right now, the suggestion is that all students wear a mask when feasible. That may not be feasible for some students, may not be feasible for our staff, but we definitely will allow students to feel safe. If a mask is something that makes them feel safe, they will be allowed to wear a mask.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then there was a follow-up question with the masks, that some of the buildings don't have AC, and the masking requirement might be hot and unbearable. Again, that feasible word in there is important. As we discuss the different options, one thing that we have been discussing is, if a student chooses an online option or a hybrid option, if that's what we ultimately end up offering, that's something that could change at the end of 9 weeks potentially. So if it's something that you're uncomfortable with, either the student or you as a family, that it's hot and the unair conditioned buildings do get hot and you're not comfortable with a face mask, as we end a quarter, that's something that students could fold back into that traditional in the school building model. So that's a great thought, and as those come up, those are the things we are considering and taking to our teacher and administrative teams to problem solve. So that's a great point. Thank you for that.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
Also, just a reminder, we are still serving lunches for students, for anyone in Hancock County up to the age of 18 on Mondays and Wednesdays from 11:30 to 12:30. We're distributing breakfast and lunch at Lincoln Elementary and Glenwood Middle School. That will continue throughout the summer, but that is Monday and Wednesday. We do have a number of people taking advantage of that. We encourage you that if that is something you need, to stop by Glenwood or stop by Lincoln Elementary and pick up some meals. We're very proud that we've been able to continue that. I'd like to give a shout out to Teresa Welty, our food service director, and many of our food service employees and many of our staff, administrative and
volunteering their time.
Certified, have volunteered their time and continue to do that throughout the summer so that our kids are fed. So please take advantage of that. That is why it's there. And we do appreciate Teresa Welty and all her hard work and her staff's hard work.
Definitely.
Also want to remind you about the survey.
Yep.
That was emailed out. Over 1,100 have completed the survey. We're going to send that survey out again very shortly, probably tomorrow.
Yep.
If you've completed the survey already, you can ignore that final forms email. I believe it'll come through final forms. But we do value your opinion, and we want to get as many of those surveys filled out. We will take that information to our committee that is meeting on Thursday and look at all the comments and what are people thinking, and we will base our decisions based on a lot of the information we get from the survey. So we want to give your child the best experience we can next year. And like I've said over and over, we feel that is the traditional model of getting everyone face to face with their teachers. So please complete that survey. It is due June 19th. But we do value your opinion, your thoughts. So we greatly appreciate those who have completed the survey. And I highly encourage those of you who haven't to take the few minutes it takes to complete that survey and let us know your thoughts.
Absolutely. And if you experience, I got a text actually from Stephanie Roth, our curriculum director, that in the middle of this, hers went out for a little while and she wasn't able to re-access. So if you were on and you had any technical difficulties, please make certain that PR@fcs.org, communicate that with us so that we can problem solve. This is brand new to the both of us. We were all kind of nervous and getting prepped for this evening. So we'll continue to improve our game with it. Our cool new logo. I'm going to get some merch. We're going to have some mugs. It's going to be really cool. But please make sure that you reach out. We can't fix a problem that we don't know might exist. And the whole goal of Trojan Talks is opening a line of communication and really developing that relationship. So anything that we're not doing that we should be with this, please make certain to give us an email at that address.
Absolutely. And currently the plan is to be here on Tuesdays throughout June.
Yep.
We will be releasing our topics. As Krista mentioned, next week we'll be focusing on kindergarten registration and athletics. And then we will have topics throughout June. We will be here at 7 o'clock in June.
Yep.
Every Tuesday night. Might not be Krista and I every night, but it will be somebody representing Findlay City Schools that can answer your questions. We plan on being here anywhere from 30 to 45 up to an hour, whatever it takes to answer your questions and make sure we're being transparent and we are communicating with you and keeping those lines of communication open. And this is not your only avenue to communicate with us. You can always email us at our school email addresses. We will respond to any email we get, and you can also, call our office. We are here every day, Monday through Friday. Krista and I and the majority of our staff in this office, we are here to serve you and answer any questions you may have. So please feel free to reach out to us at any time. Also, tonight's and all Trojan Talks will be recorded and will be available on the Findlay City School website. So if you're aware of someone who could not view tonight's program, please encourage them to log into the Findlay City School website and watch the taped version. So just a reminder, next week's topic is kindergarten and athletics. And like I mentioned earlier, we will be here every Tuesday night to answer your questions and to present on topics that we think are relevant to Findlay City Schools and throughout the state of Ohio and education in general.
We did just have a question come in, excuse me for interrupting, that if students want to wear a face mask to feel safe, are they allowed? And the answer is yes. Yeah, as long as they have the permitted face mask, we don't want anything covering your whole face or a hoodie that shadows you too much for safety of other students. But yes, that will be allowed to wear a face mask for your safety and your emotional comfort too, your physical and emotional comfort. So.
And we'll be providing more clarification
Absolutely.
on that as we work through the process. Like I said, we have a committed group that is meeting on Thursdays throughout the summer to work through the plans, and we'll continue to get guidance from the CDC, from the Ohio Department of Education, Ohio Department of Health, the Governor's Office, and even more importantly from Hancock Public Health as we work with our local agency who, I'd like to give a shout out to them. They've been great to work with and very responsive to our needs. And we're also working with the other county schools. We're providing input to them as well as receiving input from them, what their plans are. So we have a very good working relationship with Hancock Public Health and with the county schools, and we will continue to work with our local agencies to come up with a plan that hopefully is best for everyone.
Absolutely. Do you fill out a survey? Thank you so much. The questions are continuing to come in. Do you fill out a survey for each child in your house? And the answer is yes. We want to make certain that we have numbers of your primary student, intermediate, middle school, and high school students. So if you would fill out, if you already shared some concerns and such with one student, you don't have to go through that again. That whole section is optional, so you don't have to complete that part, but please go through so that we do have some data on what the options are per grade level, because what you might want for one of your younger children might not be what you want for one of your older children. So thanks, that's a great question, and please complete the survey for each student in your household.
Yeah, and we will look at every level. K-5 may look a little different than 6-8, which may look a little different from 9-12. So we will look at every possibility to bring kids back safely, but giving plenty of options.
Yep, and I know there was a question about athletics. We will be talking about athletics next week. And we'll always wrap around back to, even if a topic isn't specifically the restart, we're going to always give a fluid update because it's a very fluid situation. So we'll make sure that we keep you updated.
And at the start of every program, we'll try and recap the previous week's program. So if you missed it or couldn't watch the recording, we'll give a quick update on what we talked about tonight next Tuesday before we turn it over to kindergarten and athletics. But definitely looking forward to being here every Tuesday night.
Yep,
looking forward to putting some other people in front of you that can discuss our area of expertise. Like next week, I said Mr. Wyrau, our athletic director, and Stephanie Roth, elementary curriculum director of instruction, and we may have a kindergarten teacher with us if it's not Stephanie.
Kindergarten teacher and or principal. So
those will be the topics next week. We will be releasing those topics. I believe we're going to put those on the website, so you can tune in to future episodes of topics that interest you. So we'll hang out here for a few more seconds, I guess, and see if we have
any more questions.
If we have any more questions. There is one question. This is going to be a middle school question about Chromebooks. 8th grade students supposed to do with their Chromebook because I thought they got a new one next year.
They will go ahead and take them with them to the high school. We put a hold on transitioning any or collecting any so that everyone can have them for the summers. And then once we get back into school, we'll reevaluate with what we're going to do from there.
Right. And next year we will be K through 12. All students will have a Chromebook. We've decided that our K through students, we are going to go ahead and purchase Chromebooks for our K through 2 students.
Right.
They did not have them this year. So as far as returning those and getting the new ones, one night might be a technology night. We may have to bring
That's a good
Technology
point,
Director
yeah.
Martin White in to discuss technology issues and answer any questions that you may have regarding technology.
Great
So I
point.
think that will be a future topic down the road.
Right. And on our survey where it said technology or traditional option with technology integration, that technology integration is we are one-to-one. We utilize Google Classroom even in that traditional setting. So that's one reason that we listed that as a part of the traditional option is because technology's there and it's a part of what the students do every day. So that doesn't negate the fact that we're trying to get them back in the buildings. So, all right, any more rolling in?
I don't see any more. Oh, there may be another question here.
And alumni, keep putting a shout out to your to the year that you graduated. I know that our PR guru over here in the corner that you can't see, Kelly Young, did put out there to put a shout out to your class, and I proudly gave a shout out to the class of '87 with some of my peeps that I went through school with. So it's really fun to see your names and your years coming up. So keep that coming. That's a lot of fun to watch.
And we probably should say thank you to our tech department who worked with us yesterday and today to make sure we did not have any technology issues. So very thankful for them as well. Question submitted about pre-K students. Should they be registering? And the answer is yes.
Absolutely.
You can do that here at the Welcome Center, or you can contact Washington Preschool. Like I said earlier, the Welcome Center is open from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Monday through Friday. So those preschool kids can be registering as well.
Yeah,
here at the Welcome
absolutely.
Center.
Good question. My note said preschool and kindergarten,
Yes.
so thank you for adding preschool to that. And I did just receive another text that they watched for a little bit and then it came up restricted. So if that was a problem this evening, please give us some feedback on that and we'll make certain that we navigate that next week and solve any technology problems that we might have. So we've got some out there because our numbers have been rising. So thank you for tuning in, but we'll make certain that we make any adjustments we need to make.
Okay. If we didn't get to your question, we apologize. I believe we got to probably all of them, but if we missed one, we apologize. We'll definitely get to that. Like I said, you can feel free to resubmit it or email us and we'll get you the answer you're looking for. So I'd like to thank everyone for joining us
Absolutely.
tonight. Thanks, Kelly, for joining us here in the corner.
Yep.
Mrs. Miller for being here. And we got one question.
Just in the nick of time.
The Welcome Center is here at the administration office. We're in the Great Scott building. It's 2019 Broad Ave. We're housed between the Great Scott building and the Great Scott Pharmacy here on 2019 Broad Ave. So, like I said, open 10 to 2, but that
a
is
big Findlay Trojan on the window.
There's a big Welcome Center sign and an administrative sign on the Great Scott sign. So as you're coming down Broad, you should be able to see it. Pull into the Great Scott parking lot, and if you can find the pharmacy, we are in between the pharmacy and the grocery store. So good question as well. So, like I said, I'd like to thank everyone for viewing tonight. Please encourage others or to watch live or to watch the recording. And we will see you here next Tuesday at 7 p.m. for our next Trojan Talk. Thank
See you
you.
then.
Have a great evening.
Go Trojans.
Go Trojans.